All right, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I want to welcome you back to another edition of your Adrenal Fix. Today I want to talk to you about genetics and adrenal fatigue. So if you guys are dealing with an exhaustion problem, a burnt out problem, not handling stress the same way problem, if you are not having energy throughout the entire day, you have anxiety, maybe you have mood disorders, or you have brain fog or focus or concentration, your body doesn't cool down or it doesn't warm up, or you have heart palpitations, or you stand up and you get lightheaded and jittery or shaky, you have all of these problems going on, good chances are that the stress response has impacted your hypothalamus, your pituitaries, and your adrenals to the point now where you're not dealing with stress very well. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about the role that genetics play with this. So first of all, if you guys are dealing with this type of problem, just put in the chat box. I can look and see some of your comments on if you've had genetic tests, or what are your biggest questions about having genetic tests. What does MTHFR have to do with all of this? You know about your enzymes that help with dopamine and serotonin, but you want to know a little bit more information on this, that, or the other. Let's make this an interactive video so that I can give you as much help as possible. So what I wanted to talk to you about is there a genetic component? Am I genetically predetermined or predisposed to having adrenal fatigue? And is there a problem with the way that my body and the genetic component impacts inflammation, or impacts the way that my body repairs and rebuilds itself, so that I have good healthy bones, good healthy teeth, good healthy skin, good healthy hair, good healthy flora, good healthy hormones? Is there a problem with brain fog and focus and concentration? Are there any of those issues as well? Or what about, I'm stressed out, I'm in fight or flight all the time? Does that have any genetic component? So what I want to do is I want to explain to you, because it's really, really interesting the way we go over a genetic test with someone. And what I explain to them is there's three possibilities that you could have when you do a genetic test. There is the plus. So what that means is both mom and dad have a genetic alteration, or they have a DNA problem with recycling or regenerating enzymes, and it basically means it doesn't work at full capacity. Then we have a plus minus, where either mom or dad have an altered efficiency in their DNA or their ability to make enzymes, and it doesn't work at full capacity either. And then of course we have the minus. So those are the possibilities of what you can have when you inherit an altered gene in terms of your genetic expression. Now, how does that become a problem? Well, let's explain that. Let's think of it like if you had a genetic problem, like a plus, a plus minus, or a minus. Think about that as a highway. That's the best way we can explain it. Maybe you've heard this before from me or for someone else. Think about it as you have an 8-lane highway. And if you have a minus, it means that you have an 8-lane highway. It's working fine. There's 4 lanes of traffic going north, 4 lanes of traffic going south, and it's working at full capacity. Plus minus would be a 4-lane highway. So you have 2 lanes that are closed on either way, and not as much traffic is going to get through. It's going to slow down, and it's not going to be as efficient. And then lastly, plus is going to be 2 lanes of highway, where 1 lane going one way and 1 lane going the other way. So that's the first thing I want you to understand when you have an altered gene. That's what it means. It means that it's altered in its efficiency. It's altered in its ability to clear what it's supposed to do. And enzymes do a lot of things. They make energy. They break down things. They basically make and break over 250 cellular activities in the body, including inflammation control, DNA repair, hormone balance, brain function, detoxification, being in sympathetic fight or flight. If your enzymes are 2-lane highways and they're not being repaired properly, you're going to be more prone for these things, okay? So that's the first thing I want you to know. But here's the thing. I'll get a lot of patients that do a lot better even though they are plus than a patient who has minus. So that would be like saying, hey, who's going to get to the keys faster? The guy that has 8 lanes of traffic, or the guys that have a traffic 8 lanes of highway, or the guy that has 2 lanes? Well, the guy that has 8 lanes is going to get there quicker. Not always the case. And that's where environment comes in. That's where stress comes in. That's where nutrition and diet comes in. That's where adrenal fatigue potentially comes in. So the enzymes, the genetic susceptibilities are your loaded gun. It's what you're handed to from your mom and your dad. You can't do anything about it. It is what it is. If you have a lot of genetic loaded guns, it's the environmental triggers that cause them to go off. So let's talk about those environmental triggers. The first thing I want you to know is, and I don't have it written down here, which I should, is the cofactor. So cofactors. So let's use the example of the highway again. Cofactors are the tolls for the highway. So if you're on the turnpike in Florida and you try to go on the highway without a toll, you're going to get a ticket. In the old days where there were, you had to pay or you wouldn't be able to go through, you wouldn't be able to go on the highway. So cofactors are the equivalent to tolls on the highway, on a paid highway. So you may have a 2-lane highway plus, a 4-lane highway plus minus, or an 8-lane highway, but you have no cofactors. So what happens if I have an 8-lane highway, but I have no cofactors? That would be, say, the example of me having good genetic susceptibilities, good functioning genes, and I'm eating crappy foods every day. I'm going to McDonald's, or I'm going to Taco Hell, or I'm going to wherever it is, and I'm getting all these foods that have synthetic, they're GMO'd, they're bacteria laden, and they're fake, and they're food coloring, and there's no mineral or vitamin concentration whatsoever. How am I going to have good cofactor ability for that highway to run? It's not going to be very good. So that's number one. Number two, let's call what are the cars on the highway? If you are on an 8-lane highway and I'm on a 2-lane highway, I still may get to my end destination better than you. And not only because I have my cofactors, but simply there's just not as much cars on the highway. And so cars on the highway would be indicative of stress. So if I'm stressed out, if I have bills and I have relationships and I have bosses and I have family members and I have whatever it is, physical injuries and traumas and chemical exposures and crappy foods, then those are cars on the highway that are going to be impacted no matter if I have a plus, minus, or minus. So far we got stress and the cars, we have the cofactors and the tolls, and we also have the width of the highway, which is the gene expression. The other thing I really wanted to talk to you today about was decreased activity. So things like car accidents would slow down traffic. Even if it was an 8-lane highway, it was no cars on the road, you had your toll, but you have a major car accident. Major car accidents are things like heavy metal, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum, candida yeast, bacteria, mold, co-infections, Lyme, anything that is a cytokine. An inflammatory cytokine is going to slow down that gene expression and is going to make it very, very difficult for that enzyme to run properly. So let's talk about those 4 things. We have stress, cars on the highway. We have cofactors, minerals, zinc, selenium. Those are tolls for the highway. We have also car accidents, which are major life experiences, like even cholestyramine, methotrexate, hormone replacements, Advil, NSAIDs, finasteride. A lot of these things are going to slow down these enzymes even further. And what happens if you have that quadruple whammy, where you have crazy stressors in your life, you have a very poor diet, or you're not absorbing all your nutrients, and you don't have the cofactors. There's major infections or traumas or chemicals or toxins that are in your body, and you have no cofactors, and you have a plus. That is what's the trifecta? It's the quadrifecta. What would it be? It's the problem is that you would have a slowdown of that. So how does that relate to adrenal fatigue? Well, the genes don't necessarily determine that you're going to have adrenal fatigue. The genes are the highways. That was only one of 4 factors. And there's actually a fifth factor, increased activity. There's a lot of things that can actually speed up the enzyme and clear things out of there even quicker, which makes this whole crazy analogy of highways that much more confusing. But suffice it to say is, what happens if, you know, we're looking at an adrenal fatigue susceptibility and we're saying, okay, you may have a 2-lane enzyme where mom and dad both handed you out those altered efficient genes, but you don't have a lot of cars on the highway, which you can control your stress. You were removing the car accidents, which could be, you know, an advanced strategy like dealing with Epstein-Barr virus, dealing with Lyme disease, dealing with mold or candida or yeast or alcohol or medications or hormones, getting the proper cofactors. Now, getting the proper cofactors isn't just about eating healthy. What happens if you have major environmental microbiome craziness going on and you just can't secrete enough stomach acid to absorb your proteins? You don't have enough digestive secretions to break down your carbohydrates and extract your minerals. Your foods may be really devoid of minerals because it's crappy soils in the farms. That's going to impact you as well. So really, I wanted you to think about the question: genetics and adrenal fatigue. Genetics will definitely create a susceptibility. So it creates a loaded gun. But do you have the environmental triggers that are causing the loaded gun to go off? And that has to do with absolutely the stressors, having the cofactors available, having the car accidents in or out of the highway. Those are stress. The more stress we have, the more you're likely that your genetics are going to create that perfect storm and result in your adrenal fatigue. Now, as far as adrenal fatigue goes, I just use it as a topic of understanding that we know that it's not just the adrenal glands that get tired and they don't produce cortisol. We know that there's a hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis. We know that there's also a thing called a microbiome, and there's a thing called a hepatic detoxification. We also know that there's inflammation and receptor sites. We also know that things get converted from one form to another form. We also know that there's endocrine disruptors that can mess all this up. In fact, adrenal fatigue is such a bad a bad term, because the majority of the problems occur outside of the adrenal glands, right? But we use the term adrenal fatigue because we understand that as much as doctors don't want to look at you seriously when you say adrenal fatigue, they can't deny that the adrenals are involved in every mechanism of that HPA axis. They're involved with the stress, the fight or flight response. They're involved with having their hands in everyone's cookie jar when it comes to immune health, it comes to endocrine health, it comes to hormone health, it comes to neurological health. It does, because if you think about the hypothalamus is the brain. It's the nervous system. If you think about the pituitary, it is the endocrine system. It is the bridge between the brain and the endocrine system. And then you also have the GI system, where when hormones act on the GI, it ends up causing decreased or increased secretory mucosal protection. So that's getting a little bit ahead of us. So anyways, I see we got a lot of questions here. Could supporting genetic issues solve adrenal fatigue symptoms? Yeah, I mean, I think you hopefully got some of those questions answered in here. Supporting the highways, the stress, supporting the cofactors, supporting the absorption, the microbiome terrain, being able to help identify what the cytokine storm is and put a program together to remove those things. All of a sudden, your 2-lane highways are like, let's say Christmas Day, where not a car is found on the road and everything's clearing really well. So hopefully that makes sense. Hi, Michelle. Hope that's helpful for you. And hi, Dave and Karen. I hope you guys are doing well. I saw a really nice post about seeing beautiful things. I was laughing when we went to Costa Rica. The kids are on their iPhones and we're looking over the beautiful, coast with the ocean right there. And it's like we forget to look up outside of our electronics to see that there's a life going out in front of us. That's a lot of cars on the highway, that is. Steve Hutton, can heart rate therapy, hormone replacement, therapy improve adrenal function, or does it make it worse? It depends. I think that it's a good stopgap if someone is really deficient. Let's say they had a chemical hysterectomy, or they had a hysterectomy and they're not producing, or they have no gallbladder and not absorbing healthy fats, then you could get some support with that. But what I would say is hormone replacements can be car accidents in the middle of 2-lane highways too. Hopefully that made sense. Hi, Joanna, like your heart. Christina, I cured my disease and adrenal fatigue. Well, good for you. I got to check out your channel and your videos and see what you did so that I can help my people help what they do. Sonia, I can't get my doctor to even believe in adrenal fatigue. They look at me like I have 3 heads. So great question. I'm really close to launching my Adrenal Fatigue Society site, and I'm really excited about it. I'm working really hard with that. And one of the things that I have, my main free gift is called the Adrenal Fatigue Warrior Toolkit. And the premise around that was to give you the tools to talk to your doctor and tell them, hey, listen, I know there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue in the medical literature, but I also know that it's a good term to understand that the adrenals are overwhelmed, or what signals the adrenals are overwhelmed. And the hypothalamus and the pituitary and the adrenals, they have to work together in unison. And when stressors that are much more than we have ever anticipated run on the body, a lot of breakdown occurs. And as a result, we have compensations. It impacts our immune system. It impacts our endocrine system. It impacts our neurological system. And really, it's not your fault, Sonia. It's really the problem with the old, outdated medical sort of dinosaur that refuses to progress with the times. And I think what also you see is happening is there's a pharmaceutical reason and there's a insurance reason, and behind usually things that, common sense doesn't seem so common, usually there's a monetary reason behind it. And that's all I'll say about that. Michelle, if I feel like you are addressing my exact issue, very helpful. So thankful for your help and sharing your knowledge. Well, you know what, Michelle, I'm glad to share it. I know a lot of you guys are really dealing with some problems, and I'm glad to help. Mike, I know you had a really good question about the sulfates, and I'm not going to be able to address it today, but it's a really confusing topic, as let's just put it that way. Is MAOA an issue for men, since we can only... No, yes, it is an issue. It's a great question, because ultimately, think about a highway that has less lanes for cars to travel through. So it is definitely an issue. I see it a lot. It's helpful for clearing out your adrenaline. It needs B2 as a cofactor, which is very, very commonly deficient because of microbiome problems. It creates a lot of hydrogen peroxide, which allows or necessitates your glutathione productions to be on board. And it's another road closure if you have some COMT or PNMT issues, and you're anxious and you have a lot of overwhelm. It's definitely a concern. Good question. Teresa, just starting to learn about this, so need as much as I can get. Well, there's lots of help. I just coordinated my YouTube page, and I put playlists together, and I think I have one that's all things MTHFR, where I try to break it down into car accidents and lanes and tolls and stress. I try to break it down into a little bit simpler terms. But I need help. Okay, well, that's why you're here. And I help people too. So I do these videos to not only give you guys information and to raise questions about some of the problems and try to agitate those problems and show some, frustration, but also solutions. And you know what, if you have any problems with your health, just PM me, and you and I can talk and see what's going on. I really like to troubleshoot with you guys, figure out what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what you're missing out on. Most importantly, what is it that you want? and how badly do you want it? Are you ready to fix it now, or are you sort of okay with the pain and you're a glutton for punishment and it's not that bad? Those aren't the people I work with. I work with the people that realize this is really bad. I need to fix it yesterday. I'm going to show up coachable, and I'm going to do the resourcefulness that requires me to do this. So anyways, I hope you guys found that really helpful today. I will have one of these every week. If you have any topics that you guys want me to talk about, awesome, just let me know and I'll do it. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I do call myself the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja. That's probably another reason I don't embrace the other terms, because I can't change my ninja status. I look forward to helping you end your adrenal fatigue nightmare. Thank you so much.